Hey all, good afternoon. Welcome back to this series. I know it's been a bit of a break since I last did this. And so what I want to do today and what I kind of want to talk about with the game plan is we're going to be going into an Autodesk Build series, or mainly Autodesk Construction Cloud and a focus on Build, and we'll be looking at some other things, some Revit components, some model coordination, and other things of that nature. So just one thing for you civil folks that probably want to tar and feather me right now, we will be, civil's not being forgotten. It's just that my focus is in Build, and I want to convey some of the ins and outs that that I've learned in this product that Autodesk has been pushing. So with that being said, let's just kind of go over what we're going to talk about today. So Autodesk Build. So let's just talk about a bit of the naming convention and everything that goes into it. And so how Autodesk has changed it, and I'm going to talk about this a bit more when we're in the product, so it's a little bit more visually, you can see what I'm talking about. And we're going to go over account admin, project admin, basically what that is, what it means when you get into a project and you start working in it, and just setting your company up for success as you're adopting this tool. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into Autodesk Build. So Autodesk Build right here, and notice right here I'm in the account admin. So the account admin is really your it's like your god of the entire company or the amount of projects that you have part of that account. So you want to segregate projects across different accounts in your company. So one thing just to talk a bit about the naming conventions of Autodesk. It can be very confusing, and I've been over it a lot of times. So Autodesk, back in 2018 era, Autodesk purchased PlanGrid. And how that ties into it is PlanGrid was a great tool for, it was really sheet management. It is what it was really great at. And it really brought plans, paper plans, to a digital spot you can work on the iPad, and it's very easy to use. And Autodesk basically looked at PlanGrid and said, hey, we really like this tool, we're going to buy it. So in 2018 they bought it. And over the 2018 to 21 era, they basically started looking at what do we really like in BIM 360 and what do we really like in PlanGrid. And what they did is they married these two together, and that's what's created what's now considered Autodesk Construction Cloud, ACC. And so just one thing to note that that kind of always grinds my gears is if you say I'm on BIM 360, BIM 360 is a separate platform than ACC. BIM 360 is the older platform, and you may still be on it, but BIM 360 and ACC, they're two entirely separate platforms. And so just one thing to note is that BIM 360 is older, ACC is that newer platform. And so within ACC, there's a whole slew of products or subscription products that you're paying for that you get access to. So whether that is I have an AEC collection and I then have access to docs, if I just have Autodesk Build, maybe I'm using, I think Autodesk Takeoff is also up there as well if you're using that. But keep in mind, Autodesk Construction Cloud is not a product in itself. It's really an umbrella that encompasses products. So Build is a product, for example, that we're going to be looking at rather heavily. So just keeping in mind ACC, new, all that. And then when you feel like in the BIM space, so Autodesk renamed the BIM licenses. So if you were on Revit, for example, and working on models hosted in the cloud, that was a BIM 360 license, BIM 360 design. And now that's been rebranded to call ABC Pro, Autodesk BIM Collaborate Pro. So just some naming conventions that have changed, but the bottom line is Autodesk Construction Cloud is the future of where Autodesk is pushing. So if we just go ahead and let's just jump into the account admin here, and let's just take this for a drive. So right here, I'm just going to go to my home first. So this is outside of the account admin. This is, this shows you tasks that are assigned to you, where your projects are located, bookmarks, recently viewed items. And so if I go into the account admin right here, this is basically I'm controlling permissions for the entire company. So here are all the projects that are part of this company. I only have one right now, and we'll be in this a little bit today. And then if we go to members here, so this is all the members that are part of the project. So one thing to note is that members are on account level and they're also on a project level. So let's just go ahead, and I have a secondary user right here. This is Nate right here, Nate 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to refresh this and just notice no projects, nothing. I'm not a part of anything. So if I go ahead and add in Nate here, I'm just going to punch in that email address. And so these are optional right here. So a company apply to all members and default role. So like say I wanted to give Nate, we'll be talking a bit about roles, but let's just say he's a BIM manager right now. We'll talk a bit more about that. Account admin, I don't want you to have control of this. Executive, you don't need to see top-down reports of the data on the project, so you don't need that. And let's just go ahead and I'll just make this part of Nate's role as well. So right now we'll go ahead and add this in, philbrook.nate@gmail.com. Okay, so I've now been added in the secondary person, but look at this, no access. Nate, account 2, it says status is not invited. And what that means is you're a part of the account, but you are not a part of a project on the account. So if I just go ahead and bounce over here and refresh this right here, and I go to my projects right here, you can see no projects to display. I haven't been invited yet. We're going to do that in a second. But just bottom line is inviting someone in, how it all works. And just to sum it up is roles can be defined at the project level or they can be defined at the account level. And the only thing to think about is with a role is that a role doesn't mean anything unless you make it mean something. So you have this role and then you have access into this, whether it's a file, whether it's the ability to edit a file, whether it's the ability to fill out a form, review a form, access to assets, everything is role based. So you can have roles that just like one role that grants everybody access if you're a real small team and you don't need a highly controlled environment, or you can have tons of roles and have things very granularly broken out so that certain users have certain access where other people don't even see what that folder structure, for example. All right, just jumping down here, companies, different companies tied to your account. So you can see I have Nate's World, 2 projects, 1 member. If I go into roles here, so this is where the roles are. So like if you want to, like I just gave myself that BIM, that secondary me, that BIM manager role. This is where you go ahead and create a role to assign to someone. Project templates, we're going to be talking about this in an entirely separate session. But the bottom line with this is just think that you can customize that project or customize a template project or an existing project and create a template from it. So whenever you start new projects, everything comes across. So say you have your folder structure. Let's say it's 20 folders and there's subfolders within it and there's you name it that you have in your folder structure for every job. Go ahead and create that so you don't have to worry about creating that every time. Also with the templates you can configure permissions too. So remember that role we just talked about? Give that role permissions in the project so you don't need to worry about giving that role permissions on every project. Am I chasing John around? Did John get access to this? You name it. Okay, now library right here. So I swear this is relatively new and I actually do like this because it kind of separates forms a bit from the template. And one thing I've generally seen with forms is they get edited periodically. So you update them, we make a small tweak here, especially if you have an editable PDF. You're tweaking that form in a certain way. And when they live here, it makes it a little bit easier to work with them and then add them into a project. So you can see I have a daily report right here. I've created this, and then this has been added to that project. So it's just a way to manage those forms and bring them into projects easily. All right, apps right here. So this is any sort of like Autodesk partner app. So like say for example, OpenSpace. If you want to tie in the access to OpenSpace in here, you can work with that. So just adding in apps, basically any other subscriptions you have, you can add them in here. Okay, settings, just some high-level project settings or account settings, your account name, and then some account customization. So like if you want to allow project admins to add partner companies. And BIM 360 admins, so just one thing here, this will take you to the BIM 360 platform, the older one. So notice here this says ACC. BIM 360, you'll see B360. And they are slightly tied to each other. Again, I'm going back to what I was talking about, but they are 2 separate platforms. All right. So let's go ahead and let's jump into my project now. So let's go into Nate Demo here. So now we're going into the project level. Okay. So we're just going to notice it's just me. This is me in the project. And these are the products that have been assigned. So I have docs and I have build assigned to me. And when these have been, this little slide bar has been ticked. If you click up here in the top left, this is where you see these available. So for example, let's say I took away Insight. If I take away Insight, I have to have Insight. Let's say I take away Build. And I go up here, this will go away in a second where I will not have access to Build anymore. So toggling that off and on. So that needs to be toggled on to give someone access into Build where then they have permissions within Build. Okay, so let's go ahead and if you remember when we had that not invited status on the account level, let's go ahead and add in my member now. So we're going to do... And then, one thing that's nice about this is so you can add in a member on the project level if you wanted to, or on the account level. So you can actually add them in on the project, have the license automatically assigned, so you don't need to do it on the account level. But let's go ahead and add in Nate. We're going to say enter. Notice this is pre-populated company because I set at the account level, but I do have the option to change it if I wanted to. I can also assign multiple roles too. So I was an architect that was assigned at the company level, but say you're like, nah, we've actually changed that to BIM manager permissions now. So you could add in multiple roles. And these are the products selected, so Docs is included and Insight. And I'm going to give this person Build too. We're going to send the invitations in. Okay, this always takes a second to accomplish. Let's go. There we go. All right, now this person's been added into the project. If I go ahead and jump over here, now I see I have this project added into me. So project's been added in. There we go. We're off and running. All right, so we just add in a new person in. Let's just go ahead and just kind of run through this right here quickly. So we have companies here. So companies in the project. Bridge, we'll talk about this separately, but what this really does is it connects projects together. So projects have been historically their own silo. Everything lives in the project. Now things can live in two separate projects, or they can go from a project on one account to another project on another account. Say you are two design teams collaborating and you each have your own account, you each have your own projects. You no longer need to just invite them in and then they live on your project. You can actually push data out of your project on your account into their project on their account. So this came out last spring. It's relatively new. All right, so notifications here. This is actually pretty interesting. And so one thing is if you go up here and you grab this and you go to my notification settings, this is how notifications are set like on your own user level. One thing I don't love about this is like I want to tell you what notifications you're going to get and as the account admin, and then maybe I give you the ability to change it, but I don't want to have to say over and over and over again, this is how you do it. We actually want to have issues, for example, assigned instantly, or let's say we have RFIs. When you've been assigned something on RFI, we want that to be instantly, not hourly. This would all be just setting it for you. Now, but if as the project admin, we go back here, I can actually change this for everybody. So if I go ahead and just bounce up here, and I go into my secondary user, and I go into my project first, I go to my notification settings. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the notifications for this person. So like RFIs right here, notice that's hourly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that for everybody in my company. So if I go into my, right here, my notification settings, I just called it test, and we go to action required notifications, RFIs, we're going to make this instantly, okay? So RFIs instantly, and then we're going to bounce out of this here. Just notice this is instantly now. If I go jump into this other person right here and refresh, what we're going to see is RFIs change to instantly. RFIs are now instantly. And with this setting here, member permissions, that means that they can manage it. So because it's managed permissions, I can actually come in, if I was that other person, and be like, I want it hourly. But you can also set this to say view. You can only view your notifications. You can't change them. So it's a really nice way just to have this all streamlined, kick it out, everybody on the same page. All right, and then settings here on the project. A couple things here. So project name right here, address. This is one, it's important, just ties in a real geographic location to your project. If you're ever looking at it from the top down, you're looking at reports, insights, where are we working the most across the company. It's also important for your daily reports too. If you're automatically pulling in weather, it's going to pull from the address. So important to have that in there. Start date, end date. When you're on the home screen, that will show you how far you're complete. So like say, we start, this is actually today's date, so we're gonna see 0% complete on that home screen. But if you get 2 months in, it'll show like whatever, like 5% complete, something like that. Project number. This helps out a lot for tying in exact information on the project. So one thing that happens is like you create the project, you use a acronym on the name of the project, and then when you're looking at it, you're like, what is this project? And you have to read between the lines. So project number, really easy, concrete. This is our project number. This is where you see it everywhere else at our company. It's also important too because in forms or daily reports, you can automatically pull in the project number if it's set here. So it reads this data, pulls it in automatically. Some lesser important, the type of project. So if you're like, you'll see this in like when we get into Power BI, you can actually filter based on the project you have. So like say you have a high school, or say you have a manufacturing project, you name it, you can filter based on that. Time zone, project value, this is getting some lesser known things, some lesser important things. And then this will show your project template. So we talked about this, but if you're pulling from a template, you can, you'll see it here. So say you pull from our location-based template or our company template, it'll show that this template was used here. All right, so let's go ahead and let's just jump into Build quickly. And so I just jumped into Build. So we'll go in each session, we're gonna go through each of these granularly. But just, one thing just to understand is it feels very similar to PlanGrid, and to some extent. But there's also a lot more functionality that's been added into it. It basically married, like I said, BIM 360, PlanGrid together, took it all out. And so this is our home splash screen here. You can see our project 0% complete because it started today, and our target completion date's 3 years from now. And so then we have some quick links. Here's our weather based on our address right here. A little rainy out today. And then this is where you'd see anything assigned to you, assigned project work here. So just high-level insights into the project. All right, so let's go ahead and let's just talk a little bit about, one thing I want to talk about here is files. So if we jump out here and I go into docs, docs and files are the same thing. Files are just the naming of docs in the build space. So let's just say here, like, look, so for example, we have project files, that's our default parent folder. And then I have one subfolder I've created called O1 pre-construction. So this is where this can all be customized in your template. But if I go over here, so I want to show the power of permissions. If I go into Build over here, actually we'll go into Docs. We'll go into the same spot under this user. Okay, it's in here, and we're in Docs here. Notice I can see this folder, but my secondary account cannot see this folder. So I can refresh this, but it says, if we look at our permissions here, it has been deleted or you don't have permission to view it right now, contact your administrator. So let's say we want to give this person permissions into it. So we can just do this right here. So these are all a hierarchy. We go to our permission settings right here. Now let's go ahead and add in a permission right here. So let's go ahead and add in a role. So we'll just call this Nate's World right here. And so we're going to give the company permissions into this folder. And so we'll give them edit permissions. So view, download, publish markups, upload, edit. Basically one step below managing it. And so if we have Nate's World right here, now notice I am grandfathered into that, and then my other account has been given access into this. If I go ahead and jump out here and we refresh now, and we refresh now, now I have access into this folder here. So there's actually nothing lives in this folder, but it's just how the permissions work to grant someone access into it. So I'm going to leave this here just as we just did a flyby at Build. So we just looked a little bit at files, but just as we kind of go along here, we're going to do a session on each one. So like sheets, files, issues, forms, all that going down. And we're just going to look at each one for, this video is a little bit longer than I anticipated, but we're going to be looking at each one for 10 minutes. Each one is going to give you a good feel for it and how they all work and the ins and outs of each one. So hopefully you found this interesting, and thank you for your time.